And we are live in 3 seconds.
They never give you. Okay, Google, if you're listening, I want you to give us some kind of countdown that actually means something for when we're going live on a Hangout. Because it's the most awkward thing in the world when you do that. Are we on? I guess we are. Thing at the beginning of every single time we try and go live.
Yes, yes, I know. It's a painful experience we have to live with, I guess.
Well, we don't have to. I mean, yeah, we do. We have to live with it. There's nothing else that we can do. There's no other solution that we can use.
Exactly, at least for now, anyway. Anyway, guys, welcome to our discussion today, and we're talking about the DC Cinematic Universe. And kudos to Mr. Juan Bagner from Some Gadget Guy for joining us. Thank you very much,
Yeah,
as
happy to be here,
always.
man. Let's chat some comics and some movies and some
Yes,
movie comics.
yes, exactly. And if you all recall, he stated that we will be talking about this for quite a while, that they have baited us into this. So I'm going to keep reminding us every time we do this that
Yep.
you said this, you will come back every so often, and this is actually a cumulative update we're doing here. But let's talk about some of the things that happened recently. So starting off on Friday, I woke up in the morning and we saw the latest image of the one and only Mr. Henry Cavill as Superman. And I'm actually going to share the image for us here. But your thoughts on the image, and I'll give you mine because I did share it earlier, but I figured I might as well do it again. Your thoughts on the image, what do you think about it? And what do you think it implies? Image, the new costume, what are your thoughts there?
Well, I'm not really entirely sure what it is that they're trying to imply, other than to reinforce the notion that the DC universe is going to be a dark and gritty one. And I'm a little bummed by that when characters like Superman should be representative of a more hopeful or optimistic outlook, or there should be a little bit brighter or something to stand for. Like, I keep going back to that initial teaser trailer for the first Man of Steel, where it's all warm colors and a little kid running through like a cornfield or something like that wearing a cape, and it's hopeful and it's optimistic and it's blue skies and it's white clouds, and it's just really pretty and something to aspire to. And the Superman that we have is very much based in that Christopher Nolan aesthetic of taking something darker, taking something a little edgier, which I thought was the absolute perfect place to take a character like Batman. But I'm a little worried. I mean, every single time we've talked about this next movie, and especially because I wasn't a huge fan of Man of Steel, I
Mhm.
keep repeating myself. It makes me a little nervous when all we keep seeing is the dark, gritty side of Superman. I need to see something bright, lighthearted, funny, comedic, something at some point, because that's the quality of the character that I've most come to appreciate over all of my years of movie, TV, and comic book reading.
Okay. I like I said, I hear your point. I could deal without the comedic because I'm tired of it in general. Just because of Marvel movies, they're always like that for me. But what I do like about this image is because I think this doesn't show. I understand the darker side, but I think this shows us Gotham. And relating to what this image came up from the article, where he says Superman will be taken to new environments and new places, and Gotham is one of them. But what I liked about this, and I had an image side by side. I have to find the image and show you, is that he actually looks more mature in this compared to Man of Steel. He has this more, to me, very Superman-y look. And Man of Steel, he looked like he was just putting on the costume, like, okay, I'm gonna just go throw on the shirt and fly out there and try and do something. So for me, this image kind of gives me a more stoic Superman look. I agree, the background is very dark and it's very depressing. Yes,
It is.
it is. I agree. I definitely agree with you. I'm not discounting you here, but I think he looks more mature to me in this than he did in Man of Steel, which
Well,
I'm
and,
just
and I
gonna
would
ask you
I
for
would
the
hope that
image.
we're sort of dealing with some of the passage of time, like that
Yes.
there has been some sort of Superman growth on his own, but it's still, I don't know. I mean, there's still some issues that I've got with this portrayal of Superman. Although I did think it was kind of cute that almost instantly after this new image of Superman was posted, that we got. Hold on, I'll have to go into screen share here. That we got this really fun sort of mashup of the Batman costume image. Let's see if I can do this without my computer wigging out. Where the two sort of consoling each other over how dark and rainy it is where they're at. It's a little bros there, kind of hanging out. Thanks to Lou Rod for sharing this on Google Plus because that's where I caught it first. So
Okay.
you know, they're just two cool dudes hanging out in the rain, kind of like The Notebook, but with comic book characters. It's all good, you know. That's how they roll.
Well, this is. Can you see my image?
Oh yeah, you're back.
Yeah. So this is the image I was talking. I don't mean. Can you
Oh,
see
I'm
the
sorry.
image on
You're
screen?
not screen sharing. I can see you.
Oh, okay. Well, I was basically just. I was about to start talking about an image that's not there. Apologize. So this is the image. This is the comparison I was talking about. Can you see that now?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it's why I'm saying that what I liked about this is because when I saw the image and Screen Rants actually posted this comparison of first shots, and I said, to me, I can see it more as a patch of their time and growth. And I agree with you. Even the first image you can see is more bright, and it's snow falling, but it's more lit up in that one
Yeah,
compared to this. But what I liked is the fact that he looks more like a man in this, and he looked more like he just wore the costume in Man of Steel, and he looks much more into. I won't not say into the character, but basically it's saying, this is Man of Steel and this is Superman. He's now come
totally.
into the character. So that's what I liked about the image more than anything else. And I do like that little belt buckle there thingy. I'm serious. Like, I kid you not. Like, even though they try to do this thing right here at the bottom where it looked like it just. I mean, I understand there's no red trunks, but I wanted something to just break it up for me a little bit.
Yeah. No,
You
I
know.
agree with that.
And yeah, so for me that I liked, and I said, okay, that's cool. And I understand on that I understand the aspect of okay, I'm back. It being dark and all that. So would be interesting to see how that turns out. Hopefully it's more Gotham really has this dark look and Metropolis is more at least more vibrant, so we can
Hmm.
get that contrast. If that's what they're going with, then I'm cool with Gotham looking as dark as this,
Well,
whatever.
and there's the very real possibility that this might not be a depiction of Gotham. I mean, after how tore up Metropolis got at the end of Man of Steel, we could just be dealing with the fallout from that. I mean, that would be sort of a Frank Miller inspired way to tackle this kind of continuation of the story where the skies are still blotted out from all of the dust from all of these buildings falling and whatnot. So I mean, not knowing where they're going to take that side of the story, it's again, it makes me a little nervous if everything's going to be doom and gloom all the time. Now I'm worried that that either I froze or Enabong froze. So that would definitely be something for the audience out there if you've been following along in our recent escapades discussing the Man of Steel movie franchise, where you think they're going to be taking Superman next, especially with this new concept art out. It's been an interesting evolution because there have been a lot of twists and turns and a lot of things we weren't expecting, like from the first announcement of Ben Affleck as Batman. We've been kind of caught by surprise a number of times on where this production's been heading. So, especially looking at this new Superman concept picture, because it's not really concept art; it's this new like set picture. Uh, Definitely drop us a comment on this video just to see if whether or not you like it, if you're kind of digging this new Superman look,
I'm back. Am I
this
am I
future
back?
Superman look. You're back.
Oh my God.
I was just saying, reaching out, seeing if we could get some comments on what other people out there think about this new Superman outfit.
You
Apparently,
know
your
what?
internet service is not powered by Superman, so that's why it's not handling this Google Hangout very well.
Google Hangout has been doing some real just shit is on me. I might have to I'm gonna set up my Surface as we continue and just make
You might have
sure
to jump back over there. Well, and just
yeah.
so that you guys know, we're both now on Firefox of all web browsers, just because we were running the Chrome developer preview, and both of us are having issues on the Chrome developer preview.
It's
So
it's it's giving some serious issues here, and
some really serious issues. So, especially for all you people watching, please drop me comments on how I'm wrong, because apparently I'm always wrong about Superman needing to not be dark. And,
I hear you on that one. Like I said, I'm just one of those who I grew up with the campiness, and and I kind of grew past that, and I said, I looked at more Superman as being the guy who's there to stop and save the day, and I like more of that depiction. I agree
Yeah.
some of it was needed in Man of Steel. I'm not disagreeing, but I just think that for me, Marvel's done enough. I'm like, that's cool. I can see that in a Marvel movie, and I'm
Well,
fine
and
with
it's
that.
not so much that I need to see hijinks, and it's not like I want to go back to the
Hi, Jinx. Oh my God.
ugly days like Superman 3 or Superman 4, post Richard Donner working on those films. But there's just something interesting about a character who embraces what he is and has fun with it, and he's clever with it. And that's something that is sorely lacking from Superman Returns, and it's also completely lacking from Man of Steel as a character who likes what he is. It's the same problem I have with vampire movies. I'm tired of vampire movies where the main vampire is always so tortured that he's this immortal, superpowered being, an apex predator, and all he wants to do, even though he's 1,000 years old, is love a teenage girl. Like I just don't buy that anymore. It's kind of a hackneyed and cliched storytelling element, and I don't want Superman to fall into that same trap. And I think there are a number of characters in DC's universe which should play out dark, but getting to a point where like we're gonna have Booster Gold in a post-apocalyptic nightmare scenario? Are we gonna have a reboot of Green Lantern where all he can do is watch Sarah McLachlan puppy commercials? I mean, we gotta lighten something up here, guys, and it can't be all up to the Flash on TV. It actually has to happen in the film
Yeah,
franchises as well.
franchise. I mean, yeah, true. I agree. I agree. Some lightening up, but we'll see how it goes.
Because you're
The
right, we shouldn't be going goofy anymore. I mean, we've all grown up out of those crappy film adaptations of older comics, so I completely agree with
and the
you there.
closestness we got to Goofy this year was Spider-Man 3. No, Spider-Man 2. The Amazing Spider-Man 2
Oh
was
yeah,
was the
yeah, yeah,
closest.
yeah. Well,
It wasn't as goofy, but it was close enough
and
where
it
we
was
were.
getting really close to goofy, and because you can tell they weren't trying to make it goofy, but they put way too much stuff into one film. So all of those transitions are just so jarring that there's no cohesive narrative. There's no piece of story. So you end up getting these sort of random for random sake moments,
You know,
which doesn't help in a story that should be as human and as grounded as Spider-Man. But anyway, we're talking about Superman. We
Superman,
can
yeah.
digress
So
too far
so
there.
so besides the image and a couple of things that Zack Snyder said the the V in the verses was taken, it's taking V instead of VS as in verses. It was because they didn't want to make it a straight up verses because it really isn't. So I understood that aspect of them just making it a V. No,
I mean,
and,
they're kind
and
of splitting hairs there,
yeah,
but no,
I
I
know
mean, I
they
appreciate the explanation.
they're kind of splitting hairs, but I think it was one. I think it was maybe one of those things where it was more of a managerial DC thing of saying, "Hey, let's not," than him saying, "Let's just call it Batman versus Superman," type of thing. So I
Totally.
understand the explanation. He also talked about locations that he specifically said Clark Kent and Superman. So I think we're going to see more Clark, especially investigating more. And if this rumored villains are true, I like it. I'll see how you take it. So they said there are four villains in this movie besides Lex. Lex is your, primo
Hmm.
uno. But the first up is Victor Zsasz, one of Batman's most gruesome opponents. The guy who likes to kill people and carve the markings into his skin.
Hmm.
So he's one of the villains in there, and he might be somebody who I don't know. Maybe he's Batman. Basically, it's his introduction for seeing Batman track him down and beat the shit out of him, type of thing.
Right.
Which is always nice, which is always cool. Another one is Morgan Edge. I like Morgan Edge for two reasons. Because Morgan Edge was part of Intergang, and if you know anything about
Oh,
Intergang,
right.
that means Darkseid.
Yup.
So, and Morgan Edge supposedly is working in LexCorp as a big PR guy in LexCorp. So that might be LexCorp's introduction into doing some things with Intergang and things like that. Next up is the assassin David Kane, who is
Hmm.
who was part of Ra's al Ghul's League of Assassins, and also someone who really kicked Batman's butt a couple of times, really like whooped his ass.
Yup.
And the fourth one is Amanda Waller.
Oh, I
Um,
hadn't heard about that. The three that I had
yeah,
heard were the first three that you
three.
mentioned.
And the fourth is Amanda Waller, but is senator in this, but senator that holds a high-powered committee that to tackle alien or and she's trying to work her way to creating something. Now they said there's no Metallo, but I don't know. They did say this. She's creating a countermeasure to stop Superman. So don't know what it is, but I do like the fact that Amanda Waller is in it because she is a great connection across every single DC franchise, other than having Batman in there and
Yeah.
having somebody who for DC makes sense. You pay her less money, you can have her in many movies and not have
Well,
a
I mean,
Ben Affleck, you know.
he represents a perfect opportunity for DC to kind of do a character as through line representative, like you've got Black Widow in all of the Marvel films.
Hmm.
Amanda Waller, even I mean, like even if you were just a fan of Justice League Unlimited, she played a crucial
Oh,
role in
yeah.
Unlimited. So I mean, like that's that great sort of political edge that these movies could take because when you have entire cities being leveled, the human response needs to be weighed. It can't just be about superpowered guys fighting other superpowered guys. The rest of humanity also needs to get involved too.
Yeah. So what do you think about those four villains as a whole?
Like, because I've brought this up before, especially with how critical I was of The Dark Knight Rises, where I think we're too quick to throw away certain villains. So I'm always going to be stoked to hear a rumor that Zsasz is going to be in a film because he's one of my all-time favorite Batman baddies. He's this little one-off character, but you can do really interesting things to Batman with a character like that. When
Yeah.
he's got to track down, and it's really the psychological edge of Batman, what he has to deal with when he's going after someone as gruesome as a serial killer. And I really feel that that's a really awesome idea to explore, and I think it deserves its own movie. It'll never happen just because he's not a
It's not
popular
sexy
enough
enough.
character.
Yeah.
He's not. But I really think you could do a limited, focused, 120-minute Batman movie at that. I mean, maximum 120, maybe even like a 100-minute Batman movie, all about Batman tracking down one serial killer. Make it focused, make it intimate, make it dark, make it gritty, make it ugly. And I think you could have a really exciting movie in the vein of a film like Seven. Like I think we're missing out on those kinds of opportunities, and it's kind of a bummer when a character like that just gets thrown into the mix of something that's already going to be a little overblown with all of the characters that they've got to establish and all of the relationships that they've got to build and all of the questions that they've got to answer from the last movie. Zsasz is going to end up being like in what 30 seconds of the movie just so Batman can beat his face in and like throw him into a throw him at the steps of the police office. That's kind of a bummer. The rest of them, I think, there are potential, especially when we start talking about Morgan Edge. So if he
Yeah.
shows up at the end of the movie just to kind of start off a dark side storyline, that'll make me really happy because that's the perfect way to introduce like what Marvel's been doing. That's a perfect way to introduce what's coming next.
Well, from what I've seen from rumors, it seems like if Morgan Edge is the PR guy, I think we're going to see him in the movie. But I think his dark side affiliation might be more towards the end, like you described,
Oh, right.
because
I mean,
because
you don't need to give Morgan Edge a lot of screen time. You know what
he
I
just
mean?
needs to
Like
be the
it's
PR piece to do whatever Lex wants to do, and yeah,
exactly.
and that makes a lot of sense too, because then for Lex, that's always a fall guy. Also, that had some FaceTime, you can say,
Mhm.
I didn't do that, and and then also Morgan Edge can also incorporate a lot of that dark side, intergang connectivity in there. Now,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so with Morgan Edge, I liked, when they picked up Morgan Edge, I thought it was going to be Mannheim, but when they said Morgan Edge, because in the comic book, Morgan Edge also played the head of GBS, the Global Broadcast Network in DC Comic Books
Mhm.
pre-crisis. So I'm like, all right, if he's the PR guy in LexCorp, I can understand he's still using him in that media relation type
Totally.
function. So that makes sense with that. Amanda Waller always makes sense because I think, always having a U.S. senator that's just that focused on taking out the villain other than Lex makes so much sense in validifying Lex's case, where Lex says, this guy is a menace, I don't care. And some of the rumors are like Lex is also trying to find ways to make Superman look bad because from I mean, this is from Latino Review saying it looks like in this movie, it starts off where the country is split 50-50
Well, and
between
it should be. I mean,
and
entire cities got
and which is great. It's not necessarily everybody loves Superman, and Lois is put in a situation where she's actually doing this news conference and this news sorry, not conference, sorry. She's on a news talk show, and someone's asking her about Superman and why is he good, and she and this other guy, I think it's Morgan Edge, if I'm not mistaken. So, given sending her that build up of saying, hey, not everyone is about the guy. Yeah, we're happy he stopped the other dude, but I don't know if I truly, accept and believe him. So I like the fact that at least from the rumors we're seeing some of those connotations and and some of those things that you feared that may not have carried over at least from the destruction of
Well,
half of Metropolis.
and especially Waller has always represented sort of an anti-hero character in this universe too, where she can help as much as she gets in the way of our superhero friends. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
So it's nice having. I mean, if we're really going to be exploring this universe and we're going to be giving it depth, we want characters that are totally gray. And I think Waller represents a character that you can let her explore a bunch of different directions for what might happen
For
to Super Friends, but we don't ever have to nail her down as being a good guy or a
good
bad
guy,
guy.
exactly. Yeah, definitely. See, now the other character, David Kane, I think might be hired by Lex because Batman showed up in town.
Nice.
I mean, because we know Zaz is going to be thrown away, and he's going to be Batman's introduction. I guess they didn't just want to be some punk on the street; they wanted somebody that fans will know. But
Right.
David Kane is probably the person who will spend more time trying to battle Batman, throughout this movie after he's dealt with,
But
he
it
and
really
Superman for
does
doing it.
bring up kind of an interesting question in that, like, Ra's al Ghul, I never would have figured as being one of the more popular Batman villains until he became sort of the centerpiece for Batman Begins. I mean, that was
Yeah.
really for a lot of people who were sort of like passive fans of comic book movies. That might have been their first experience with Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah, exactly. And he's taking such a big place in DC universe as a whole. Arrow is just Ra's al Ghul
Yeah,
infested, you know?
totally. They might as
Whether
well
it,
call that show Batman Light now.
yeah, exactly. Whether it's the first main bad guy in season one, who was trained by Ra's al Ghul, or Black Canary, who was trained by Ra's al Ghul's daughter,
Hmm.
or Ra's al Ghul's daughter showing up in the show, and which brought something interesting. I was watching AMC Movie Talk, and they were talking about this photo, and one of the guys there, I forgot his name's a guest, but he's got some inside knowledge. He said that there might be some loose connection to the Dark Knight franchise, a very loose, and I think it might just be Ra's al Ghul himself,
Right.
just
Well,
because.
and that becomes a very important question because we've also sort of been talking up like we're getting away from the Nolan franchise. This isn't going to be the same Batman, but there's enough groundwork established there that we're going to reference characters that people have only experienced in movies from that franchise. That I mean, it's not like people are going to get super confused because obviously, like, people could figure out the difference between Spider-Man and the Amazing Spider-Man. I'm not too worried about that, but you know
Yeah,
that there are going to be a few people who go in and go, but wait a minute, that's different.
yeah. I know. I mean, there will be a few, but I think because when you mean, I'm thinking because they're referencing is that they're using all these tertiary characters that are connected to Rouse and someone like David Kane, for instance, and things like that, where he is, but it's that kind of connection, not necessarily Batman himself.
Right.
So that was where most people won't even realize and will just move forward. So I think that's fine and that plays a good role. But in terms of the villain list, I'm fine with it. I agree with you. I wish Victor Zaz had a more
I
elongated
totally
process.
understand why he'll never get his own movie, but I am promising you, filmmakers out there who might be looking at what kind of additional storytelling we can do in this environment, even if you're talking about like a limited animated direct to DVD film, you're missing out on opportunities by cramming 10 villains into every single movie. There are plenty of stories that we can tell in much more limited fashion, in more cost effective fashion. So, your profit margins are even better because you don't have to blow up a whole city to tell a Victor Zaz story.
Storyline. Yeah. No, no.
And
I.
that's always going to be my cranky rant. But I think it's also very telling that this current rumor here, I mean, the announcements that we're talking about, they're not really focused on Superman villains. It really is about reintroducing a flavor of Batman into this universe. because we're not. I mean, like you were talking about, like, well, what if there's a Metallo or someone like that? And so far, the only person that we've got actual confirmation on as a Superman bad guy is Lex Luthor.
Lex. Yeah. No, I agree, and I like it to the point because the best parts of a Batman Superman team up in the comic books have always lended to Batman's villains holding a prominent role because even in the comics, Superman still did not get how vicious these guys were.
Hmm.
He thought that, and to a certain degree, I kind of see where he was coming from, where he thought, you know what, I would just drop a building on this dude or some rocks and it's done. But
Right.
Batman's like, no, these guys have done something else that I still need to beat them just enough to get something before you
Right.
drop the rock on them, type of thing. And I think I like that as long as, and again, Superman villains too are very cliche in the sense they have the typical comic book villains. It's, maybe Metallo has a little bit more story behind him and his bigger villains like Darkseid, but the rest, like Parasite and the rest of them, are just people who you can fight with. It's usually pawns Lex controls, and that's
Yeah, and I mean, like, and if they're not, then it becomes something of like a Dragon Ball Z.
exactly,
I didn't
exactly
realize this person was so powerful, and so
powerful.
Superman underestimates him and gets his butt kicked in the
Okay.
first issue, and then has to like fight him even more harder in the
Yeah,
second
yeah,
issue, and that's how he wins. Hooray!
exactly. So, which is why, I guess, which is why bringing some thinking involved always helps, especially with Batman villains, where he now realizes, especially, the fact that I think about it in the sense that he can't destroy half the city anymore because there's a
Mhm.
50-50 split. And Batman's telling him, you really can't destroy half the city anymore. You got to use
Yeah.
that extra vision.
Well, I mean, and just think about it. I mean, like, because we know this won't happen in this next movie because of, sort of where we left off the Nolan Batman franchise. But just, I mean, it's so stupid easy to imagine a scenario where, the Joker has been reigning terror over Gotham, so Superman just captures him. That wouldn't stop the Joker's plans. You know what I
No.
mean? Like, that doesn't help anything. So Superman historically has just not been very effective against these more psychological, crazy
Crazy,
kinds
yeah.
of villains.
No, that's very true. It makes sense. So, I agree with you. Yeah, it is Batman heavy and in villains other than Morgan Edge, who is the leeway to his
Hmm.
ultimate villain anyway, Darkseid. So I think that also, lends credence into developing Batman into this universe. And I don't think it's going to be a long development, but I think it's just enough so that you say, okay, this is, again, because Zack Snyder talked about how you're really going to see him as a very old, weary Batman. So I'm wondering how he's going to actually just beat up Zaz. It might be one of those things where, like Dark Knight, where he just tosses this dude all over the place without any care for his bones, and almost kills the guy. And like, okay, fine, I'll send you to Gotham City, and then that would be the end of that, type of mentality there. So it'll be
Yeah, I mean,
interesting to
they've
see.
got a lot of opportunity to play with. I mean, you bring in Zaz, you can also start working in little elements of Nightfall. Sort of a tired, broken Batman. You can be working in elements of, the Dark Knight Returns. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity here, and with the rumors that we've been seeing about where this story could go, that looks like where they'll probably be drawing some of their source material from,
Yeah.
especially with the director that they've got, who seems pretty comfortable working in that kind of storytelling vein.
Yeah. Before we switch over to the DC universe, the expanded DC universe, we have a couple of comments here in the video. This is from David Silva, or David Silva, but David, I would say the football
David.
player. I think it's going a broad route. Watching the end of Man of Steel, seeing Clark laugh with his mom at the grave and him smiling while he was at the Daily Planet, seeing him laugh and having fun when he was at his first fight, gives me hope for a brighter Superman. It's just that Man of Steel has so much emotional weight and so much discovery for Clark that it was a hard spot to fill the fun parts. Looks brighter, but I'm not sure if it's the background setting. He looks jacked as hell. I agree. Yes, he does. He's
Hmm.
gotten bigger, and I'm getting that Kingdom Come vibe from him. What do you think?
Yeah, No, I mean I'd agree with a lot of that, and I guess I need to be careful in how I'm sort of expressing my frustrations with Man of Steel because it's not that I want wacky, comedic, slapsticky moments. It's that I want to see a character who's clever enough to understand who he is, and we never really got that in Man of Steel. We got a very passive aggressive victim who was taught not to save people by his father, who then got sucked up by a tornado. And in Superman mythos, that also robs us of a very important character building element for Superman. Is traditionally Superman's father is lost to a situation that is outside of Superman's control. A tornado is not outside of Superman's control.
Control, yeah. Heart
You know,
attack
and a
is.
heart attack or cancer or something like that to teach him that
Actually,
no matter.
cancer is not out of his control anymore.
Oh, did I miss something? Is Superman
Yeah,
now?
yeah. There was one series with Jim Lee and Brian Azzaro where they took, the scene with the preacher. That scene
Yeah.
was from that comic book. I just can't remember what it was, but
Okay.
and he talked about how powerful he was and how he can cure. The preacher had cancer. He's like, I can cure your cancer, but I won't because I'm not trying to interfere with, like
Oh,
stuff.
that's all BS. That
Yeah,
kind of
all
stuff is
BS.
weird.
No, because he's like, I could do microscopic surgery on you and blah blah blah, this and that, or use
Yeah,
cartoon.
and
I was
that's
like,
another thing. Is like where I'm going to be hands off on stuff like that is
I
for
know,
the
I know.
films. He's typically not portrayed as being
God.
well, not typically as being portrayed as being like genius smarter than humans. It's when we start getting into some of those comic series and some of the animated series where all of a sudden like all this time he could have cured the world of disease, but he's not gonna. And you're like,
Yeah, it's true. Because the amount of
uh
books that he can read and he's saved in his head. I mean, like,
right,
you know, where you're going. I mean, the only time that he actually addressed that was when in All Star Superman when he was dying because he sucked up so much solar radiation
right,
that
right, right,
his
right.
intellect IQ just quadrupled. Then he
Hmm.
said, "I had the cure for cancer. I have the cure for this. I have the cure for that." Da da da. And I'm like, okay, all right, I can buy that just because of what is happening to him.
When he's legitimately straight up a battery, that kind of stuff makes sense. Like he just go
That's,
turbocharged. But then
yeah.
there are other times too where like Lex steals his powers and all of a sudden Lex is even more of a genius, and you're like, oh no, because it's too inconsistent. You need
Yeah.
Superman to be dumb too many times for me to believe that he's also a Kryptonian genius.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like that you can't trick Superman and then turn around and tell me, oh, he's also the smartest being in the galaxy.
I mean, technically he
Doesn't
should
work.
be. Yeah, I
Well,
know.
but then it also doesn't make characters like well, one, it makes Lex Luthor way less interesting, but then also
Interesting.
it you wouldn't face threats from villains like Brainiac. You know,
Yeah.
like because the whole point of Brainiac is a brain, and
Wait,
if
yeah.
Superman's supposed to be super smart, but Brainiac can get one over on him, then that's frustrating because it means you have to purposely
Double.
contrive scenarios in which Superman's flavor of intelligence can't help him, and that's lame. That's dumb.
Yeah.
But again,
That
I mean,
is true.
more to the point, especially with what that last comment was talking about.
Wow.
I do like some fun. I like the cat and mouse game of a savvy Clark Kent who can solve crimes or save people without being noticed, and he can enjoy that. That should be a fun game for him. We don't need all of the slapsticky comedic stuff from sort of Superman versions of the past, but if we can't get some variant, some flavor, some recognition of what this character could represent, then it's really just another sort of dark, gritty. It gets dull. I mean, it's like you can only look at roughed up cityscapes and destroyed cities and for so long. I mean, it's not epic anymore. We've seen it so many
Many
times now.
times.
I mean, who
True.
watched Independence Day over the 4th of July weekend? I mean, Roland Emmerich has been destroying cities for decades now. It's not that big a deal, guys. I mean, it's not really that
Yeah.
impressive a sight on a movie screen anymore.
I mean, true, true, true. I wanted to see a demolished metropolis. I'm one of those people who actually want to see buildings fall down. I was very fine with it. I was very fine
Well,
because
and now we've seen it, but where do you take that now? You shot your wad in the first movie.
I'm fine with. You know why? Because I didn't think they're gonna make another Superman movie.
Well, because you can't like go bigger
See,
than that. And like, oh
I
no,
went
now
like
Earth
this.
might be
I
destroyed.
went like this. afterwards. But no, I agree to a certain point that yeah, after you fire off that kind of load, it might take a while to reset. So hopefully this is a little bit more grounded before we go into Justice League
Yeah, because I
and
mean, if you're gonna try and impress me with super epicness in this film, you're gonna have nowhere to go for a
go, yeah.
Justice League
So
movie.
I think if you get more grounded and more base work into this, then you will find then it kind of I guess it would be that roller coaster ride of then again Justice League
Ah!
takes us off, and then I guess I think people will be fine with that balance at least where it's
I hope
it's
so.
not just a ah just going downhill. I mean,
And
even
because like also that Man of Steel movie was sort of one downhill after another downhill after another downhill after another downhill, and after a point you're just sort of like, I want to get off.
True, true. Let's move on to some of the other rumors for DC cinematic projects. So, like I mentioned, Kevin Smith says that the 11 DC projects are legit, and it looks like DC. And if I think Kevin Smith has at least some inside ear in some of those matters. Not necessarily he knows everything, but just because he did talk about the costume way ahead, and he was
Hmm.
close to being spot on as much as he could tell us in general.
Right.
So a couple of the movies first of all starting May 2016 is Batman Superman. Next up in July is Shazam, which The Rock has been talking about. He's part of a DC um, franchise, so that might be one where he's in. Sandman is Christmas of 2016. That's the one with Joseph Gordon-Levitt in that.
Yes.
Justice League is May 2017, and drum roll please. Wait, there is drum roll sound effect here somewhere. I can't find it.
No, we don't have to. We don't have to worry about that.
You're like
I'm
that.
sorry.
And July 17th of 2017 is Wonder Woman, same year as Justice League, but 2 months after.
And I would be so happy if they could nail a Wonder Woman movie. It
If
would
it
just make
comes
me so happy.
If it comes out, that would be great. I mean, I actually like a Justice Wonder Woman in July, so it'd be interesting coming out after. Would that be her storyline, or I mean, I don't know how they're gonna do that story because okay, we know she's introduced, but we know because actually from the interview with Zack Snyder, he said he has not shot a single scene with her in costume. He did her as Diana
Hmm.
first couple shots, and he's like, "I we sent her back to go bulk up." So everyone who was complaining about her weight and everything can just keep quiet completely because he just literally said, "I shot her as Diana and I sent her off to the gym. That's it."
Right.
I wanted her to look good in the dress. I mean, at least just not look just too muscular because a lot of her dresses were, low cuts or sleeveless or things like that. And
Right.
then we go buff her up. So, for all you guys who are afraid, she is going to be as buff as possible as you can think, or at least she would look like Faye.
Oh, please tell me I didn't lose you again. Because I was actually one of those people that was pretty afraid of the initial casting announcement, and then I found out she was also Israeli Special Forces or something like that. So it's a little harder to get too worked up about what she might be able to pull off. Although, I mean, considering some of the early rumors
Hello,
were
hello,
about,
hello,
are
hello.
you back?
Oh man, this is just getting ridiculous, man.
This has been a calamity-filled hangout brought to you courtesy of Google and YouTube.
Okay. As so and before I forget, there's still two more movies. Christmas of 2017, A Flash and Green Lantern team up, and
That could be
May
cool.
May 2018, Man of Steel 2. Most likely it'll be called Superman instead of Man of Steel 2, but and then a Batman 2018 2019. So your
Yeah.
thoughts while I set up my Surface here and
Which you
just
said you
switch
were doing
over.
before, just to
No, no,
prevent
no,
this from
no, no.
happening again.
Just the Wi-Fi. I just didn't do Wi-Fi. But anyway, your thoughts on those?
So I mean, like, if this is what they if they're really executing well on all of these properties, then I'm gonna be super happy. I still think characters like Flash and Green Lantern both deserve films of their own, but maybe doing the team up, we can get over this need to always have to retell the origin story over and over and over again. So you give us the team up movie, and you can just get right into a fun action film of the two of those characters working together. And if it does well enough, then maybe we can justify some solo movies from those two, because I would love the Flash. The Flash is my favorite DC character. I mean, like, everyone loves Batman. I love Batman, but the Flash, especially not Wally, but oh crap, what's his name? I just
Oh,
spaced.
can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, cool. I switched off. I am going to close out of my desktop here. I apologize. Ah, yes. Okay, so now I'm on a secure T-Mobile connection. Mm.
Yeah. But wait a minute, weren't you telling me about how much better Comcast was going to be for me and everything? You were all saying something like that.
It only works. This only happens with Hangouts. So unless they're doing something, because I actually have a 100 megabit connection, and if I'm
Hmm.
downloading stuff or uploading videos, it's fine. Hangouts, and it started after I used, I don't know, I thought it was initially with the Chrome update for 64-bit, but it works also same issue with what you call it again, Firefox. So I have no
Gotcha.
idea. I
It's
have no
probably a
idea.
combination of those two things.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I agree with you. The Flash and Green Lantern team up might be a really cool, interesting thing to try out. You know, if since I think DC might also be thinking, since we are doing team ups, right? We might as well just continue the trend. I mean, we started with Batman versus Superman, right?
Hmm.
And it looks like Flash and Green Lantern will be in Justice League. So why don't you just continue a storyline because they're buddies there
Now
and something
it's
else?
now is it Green Lantern or is it Green Arrow?
Green Lantern. There was talk of
Because
Green Arrow
because
being in there too.
because Green Arrow and Green Lantern would also be something I would want to see, just especially after their sort of comics run. What was it, in the late 70s or early 80s,
I think early
where
80s.
Green Lantern was a sort of stick up his butt interstellar cop, and Green Arrow was a sort of anarchist, and the
Yeah,
two kind of bounce off of each other a lot.
yeah, it was the 80s. Yeah, and both of them are professional playboys in their own right. So I mean, I'm pretty sure after they finished, they just hit the bar.
Oh, Oliver, you wacky liberal, you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just hit the bar afterwards and just, soak up, and catch up with the lady. So I think, yeah, I think that might be a good team up there.
But yeah, I think it's an ambitious film schedule. I'll be curious to see if this is actually what the industry needs to help sustain comic book films, because there's always the danger, and this is me getting really cranky pants here. This isn't what I expect will happen, and it's not what I want to happen, but there's always the danger that saturation can be bad for this kind of market. So
Hmm.
with Marvel going through their multiple film franchises between Sony, Fox, and Disney, and now DC going through multiple franchises to build up Justice League, that these movies start becoming a little less impressive because there are just so damn many of them.
Yeah, I mean, true. And we kind of had that fear this year, but
Hmm.
I think one of the things that curbs the fear is just straight just down to quality.
Sure.
And the movie we thought was going to be the least, you know, out of list, at least in terms of quality, was X-Men, but it was actually one of the better ones, this year. I would say it's on par with Captain America in my mind, but I still think Captain America edges it out a little bit. But Spider-Man now became the worst in terms of quality out of
Yeah.
all the comic book movies, which was
I
kind
was
of
not
a
expect. I
bum.
totally have to beat down on that. I was really expecting it to be the other way around. I really thought Sony was going to get behind their franchise better, and we were absolutely left with the opposite. And I agree.
Yes.
I think Days of Future Past, for all of its issues and all of its problems, did exactly what I needed it to do in resetting the X-Men universe.
Yeah.
That's
No, it
really
did,
what I
and
needed it for the most, was just reconciling the awful ending we were left off with X-Men 3. So.
oh yeah, definitely. And I think it did a good job in, like I said, in the quality aspect where. even like my little cousin who's watched all the X-Men, and he does not like them at all. I mean, he's not read that many X-Men comic books, but this is how you know a kid and his comic books, right?
Mhm.
He's like, how come this doesn't this? And then when he watched what do you call it again? The Days of Future Past, he's like, why is Professor X in his own body? I thought he died and he jumped into
Right.
another. I was like,
Oh,
everything's just it's like just think as a reset button.
yep.
He's like, okay,
You're
fine.
right about that because he's back because of reasons.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the quality will go into play if the quality is good, or at least maintains that same level quality across the board, where you might and if they mix it up, like Sandman is going to be a very mystical type of thing, so it's not going to be fun. Shazam needs to have some fun, as much as because you're dealing with a young kid who becomes Shazam.
Right.
I think that's the movie. If that's hitting July 2006, and if they make things fun in certain ways, because I'm looking at their lineup, there are three movies in each year for 2006 2017, and Batman Superman is your major movie, so that should have at least some balance. Your Shazam should have more fun,
Right.
and then your Sandman should be the dark one
Oh
there.
yeah.
And then your Justice League should be the balance. Wonder Woman can be a little bit tougher. I would say dark, but just a little bit tougher.
Well, and I'm cool with Wonder Woman going dark. I mean, there have been enough legit incarnations of Wonder Woman to push her into something kind of dark and gritty. But
True.
I would like to see a little bit more balance in a character like Green Lantern. I would love to see more
And
fun
Flash.
in a character like Flash. I mean, because Green Lantern can be fun, but he shouldn't be fun. He all of the restraint needed to just not imagine all of these crazy things that his ring can manifest. I mean, that's a character that's about control. So I'm okay with Green Lantern not being a brighter character,
You know, you,
but we
oh,
need some character to counterbalance that. And I think Flash is a great one to do that.
true. But this is the funny thing about it, dude, because I've seen Green Lantern do this in the comics, and I'm just wondering if that will actually be thrown into that script, because the 2017 movie for Green Lantern team up, the script they should start writing the script now anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
I'd be surprised
so
if it's not already mostly
done.
written.
So I'm thinking, if Green Lantern is coming off after meeting Superman for the first time in Justice League, and he thinks he's this powerful, why doesn't he just start imagining Superman as his from his ring? Because I've seen it in the comic book, he's done it a couple of times, but I think the reason why it didn't work is because supposedly, well, then again, it was Kyle Rayner who always loses his concentration after like a certain amount of time
Hmm.
in the first place, but it's that he couldn't imagine Superman's full strength as a whole to maintain the construct. So I
Right.
was just wondering if he would do that in this either Green Lantern Flash team up, because that's after Justice League. Because you just meet
Yeah.
Superman, and if you think he's the strongest guy in the world, then I don't need to create missiles. I just create dozens of Superman and just throw it out there.
Right. But I mean, it's also I think it'll really come down to uh what incarnation of because I don't know that I would want to go back to Hal. Um,
Yes, yes, yes.
I think I'd want to go to John Stewart.
I agree.
And also that might be one of the only opportunities that we have for this heroes lineup outside of Cyborg of introducing a character of color.
True.
I mean, I guess
Um,
like Kyle would also be, but I've just never. This is me being cranky, and even as a Hispanic, I was just never a big Kyle fan. Um,
I like Kyle
I
though. Kyle was my favorite, and then they started making him
really
very.
I
They,
like I like John Stewart, man.
no, see, like John
I
Stewart. John Stewart to me was very. I kid you, like I looked at John Stewart as being like this stiff African dude. Dude just was like I just didn't. I couldn't connect with him. I like
gotcha.
Kyle because like Kyle was. He was the artist. He had the most creative constructs. Everybody
Oh no,
else,
I'll definitely give you that. And if you want a Green Lantern to be fun, it should be Kyle. But
yeah.
I've always sort of looked at just I'm looking at the logic of a magic power ring. Looking at the logic of a magic power ring, I've always kind of appreciated how reserved John Stewart was because I think he's one of the few characters that we've been exposed to in the Green Lantern mythos that really does fully respect the amount of discipline it takes to be a hero. And that I've always liked about the commentary of his character, where Kyle is sort of a by the seat of your pants kind of character. I just never really identified with this. Well, I can do wacky whatever stuff because it's kind of like the problem I had with Man of Steel, because you're never really quite sure what's going to get caught in the crossfire in a situation like that.
Okay. True. But I
For
agree.
being
I think.
intergalactic beat cops, Jon Stewart definitely best resembles an
Yeah. I mean, he
intergalactic
was in the
police
military, and
officer.
he's also an architect, right? He was in the
Right.
military as an architect. So his contracts have to have like form and logic to it. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was his thing. So no, I definitely agree there, and it would be cool to see. Actually, you know what? It basically would be a buddy cop movie.
It is.
If you just
Totally.
see, yeah, because I could see it now with Flash, and I'm thinking of like Beverly Hills Cop and all the buddy cop movies in the '80s.
Oh, totally.
You
It's
take
totally like
that,
Lethal Weapon, and that's
yes,
why. Also, it should be Jon
yes,
Stewart. He could be Murtaugh
yes,
in the
exactly.
Flash's Riggs.
Riggs, exactly.
Let's
If
get
you,
this done. Green
if
light that film.
well, yeah, if you do that, I think that would be a refreshing take, and because if you make it and that's the thing, it's almost like saying like what do you call it again? Captain America. It was a
Hmm.
spy movie, and we got a spy movie with just guys who had superpowers in it, and that's really what it was. And if you do the same thing with Flash and Green Lantern, you will have a buddy cop movie.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
I really
Yeah.
feel that we've solved some problems here.
Yes.
Whenever
Yes.
DC wants to put us on retainer for future films, I think we've really added to the discussion in a way which would help them out.
I definitely agree. I think, and then one more thing, of course, since this has been the longest standing rumor in this whole uh,
Oh God,
Batman,
yeah.
Superman, Dawn of Justice, as well as Justice League movie production, is the fact that Jason Momoa has been already cast as Aquaman. And he's come out and denied it, and then recently on Jimmy Kimmel, he really didn't deny it at all.
Hmm.
And to me, I think that is the case in this movie. I think he will show up as Aquaman. I think he's going to show up sub credits, not in the movie, which is fine by me. To
I,
join.
I really hope they don't try and work in an Aquaman, even just in a cameo, into a movie that's already this sort of expansive
Expensive.
on the world.
Well, I think he comes up in the sub credits, and some of the rumors have said this movie will have two post credit scenes, which means one might be Aquaman and one might be Darkseid, implied. So, but what do you think about Jason Momoa as Aquaman
Well,
in
and
that
again,
role?
it sort of lends further credence to this being a darker, edgier take on DC Comics, because I think Jason Momoa is perfect for that look that Aquaman had of missing one arm and the scraggly beard, and sort of this brutal sort of berserker style. I mean, almost look like a Viking underwater kind of look. And Momoa, I can't think of a better actor for that than Momoa at this time, because he's a pretty hunky slice of man meat, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Don't make it weird. You're
No,
making
I'm
it
not
weird.
making it weird. No, I
You're
didn't make it
totally
weird.
making it
And I
weird.
did. I did. I did. I did. I did. I did. I did. Yes, I did.
No, but I
But
mean, think about it. He's got the perfect look for that era of Aquaman, which fits into a darker, edgier DC universe. So I
true.
think that's genius casting if that's the direction they're going to take this franchise.
But I do agree though. If you're gonna bring in Aquaman and he ever is called Aquaman, and I think uh, Flash should name him Aquaman. Not that he's named by himself. I
Right,
think
right, absolutely.
I think what you're gonna have here is you need somebody that looks menacing, so that if you call him Aquaman, he's just gonna give you that look, and you go, "Oh, I'm sorry." Then he goes, "I
Right.
kind of like it," something like that.
And
But
especially a character like the Flash is maybe the only person who could like run away fast enough.
no, exactly right. Yeah, so for me, I agree with you. I think it's genius casting for that. The rumor is that Aquaman shows up at the end of the movie because the Indian Ocean is messed up because of the world engine that already messed shit up there in the
Hmm.
first place. So Aquaman is coming for his own beef, and he's coming to collect. So we'll see how that plays. Now, in terms of Wonder Woman, rumors always swirled around that she is coming to pick up an artifact of hers from LexCorp that is part of her people. That's it. Like that's literally her main motivation. She doesn't care about Superman showing up until something happens. So we don't know what that something is.
Right.
And and I would be glad if they keep her as Diana for the longest time until she's needed.
Well, and it'll be curious if they're really going to be doing a Justice League and a Wonder. Did you say? I'm sorry, I've already spaced. Is that what the
Justice
timetable is?
League
Justice
is
League and Wonder
May
Woman
20,
were in.
2017. Wonder Woman is in July.
See, that's curious to me because do you take the wraps off of Wonder Woman in a film that's not Wonder Woman? Like
Um,
that just to me is sort of odd. It's totally backwards of what Marvel did in introducing all of their characters in their own individual films. So I'll credit them for not following in Marvel's footsteps there, not just copying Disney Marvel. But it is kind of an odd timing to release two properties where Wonder Woman factors very heavily into Justice League, and then 2 months later to turn around another movie based on that
Well,
IP.
well, it might be her origin story, and it might be done like the Wonder Woman cartoon. I don't know if you've seen the animated Wonder Woman movie, the very first one where, and they might not bring it to Earth. I mean, they're not going to bring. It's going to be all about either Hera and the gods,
Hmm.
or some kind of whatever they try to introduce as gods, or whatever they choose to do. But it might be the creation of Wonder Woman, how she became the badass that she became. Then you see her, and maybe the last scene is her showing up in Metropolis looking for the artifact that got missing,
Right.
and it stops right there. And
That,
then
that
you
makes
go,
sense.
oh, okay, all right, cool, cool. It's backwards, but it's still it's just a prequel to where she is right now. That's pretty much it. And as long as she shows up as a badass, I mean, I agree. It's a backward way of doing things.
I mean, and I can totally see that. It's just, I mean, again, I get so nervous about stuff like this because we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars going into production that if these films don't execute could very well put a huge hurt on the entire comic book movie industry. So that's why I get a little twitchy and a little anxious about this stuff because it's
I'm,
starting
I'm
to
not.
feel a little like the comic book industry of the 90s where everything was sort of overpriced and overvalued and
Yeah.
speculators were
I,
ruining
I'm not.
stuff.
I'm not. I'm not. To me, I'm actually fine with that. I'm just not fine with the placement in July. That should be a March movie. That should just come before Justice League and be done with. As long as it stops where Man of Steel started. Miami Batman Superman. Like to me, after Justice League, then the Wonder Woman. I'm just kind of like I just don't get that placement. If
Right.
that came
That's
out in March and then May Justice League came out, it's kind of like that Captain America to how Captain America came out way earlier. I'm cool with that. I'm like, okay, now I get why we're gonna see more Wonder Woman in Justice League. Cool beans. I can move forward. But if it's in July and I'll go see it. But then again, it kind of takes away from some of that character too at that time.
right.
So that's why I'm concerned about. It's more of the play because I think even though it's a prequel, but if you do it at the end, because she could still help Superman, and you don't know why or what at the end of Justice League. She's just like, you people helped me get my stuff, and I helped you get this done, type of thing. Then you can now tell her story about why she is the way she is, and not just because she's purely good or purely bad and where she comes from, and then you move
Right.
on to Justice League. But if they place it in July, then I think I would be worried. I would be kind of like, I think I already know much about Wonder Woman now. Thank you very much. Uh, so I mean, hopefully that changes. But then again, these are all rumors and tentative schedules, so we have
Yeah.
no idea.
Well, and just really am happy. It's always a bummer, and I'll totally understand if like the Flash movie never really does materialize. The
Yeah,
Flash solo film never really does materialize, just because he's one of my favorite characters. But I also understand when you've got a bunch of suits making decisions on the economics of some of these characters, it doesn't always make sense to throw an entire movie at a character who might not perform well. Uh,
AKA
but
the Hulk. We've seen the back and forth that they've gone
yeah,
with that.
I mean, you've got some really good, but you also got some surprising entries. Like now, Iron Man is a first tier hero, but before the Iron Man movie came out, I don't think people would have considered him to be as big a hero as like the Fantastic Four, or the X
Oh
Men,
no,
or
no,
the Hulk. Even
no.
I think he was second tier until Robert Downey Jr. really blew that role up.
Hmm.
So I understand, but Wonder Woman is one of those characters who has historically been denied good media.
Yeah.
She has been deserving of a good series or a good movie for far too long now. So the execution on that has got to be really precious because this is like the last chance for our generation of people to try a Wonder Woman properly before we
That's
have
true.
to
I
give
mean,
up and wait another 10 years for us all to forget how bad the previous incarnations have been.
yes, it would be. I mean, we might have to be maybe 60.
Maybe
If
I'm hopefully not that old. I was like
it,
maybe like when in my mid 40s they can try again if they screw this next one up. But I mean like because we've seen so many amazing animated versions of these characters that she's due her own live action property of some kind. I think she'll stand as one of those sort of hallmark female heroes because there are just so few of them that
Mhm.
can sort of stand a franchise all on their own.
That's very true. Very true. We have a couple of questions here. Actually, one from David Silver saying, "Do you think Shazam will be tied to the DC universe or a solo separate from
Well,
the
DC
Justice League?"
owns the rights, right?
Yes, they're on the right, but I think the reason why he's asking is that they said there were some movies they were going to do in this 11 movie slate, even though they had, right now, initially there was talk of things like Metal Man and also another comic book is kind of like Red, the Red movie, which
Oh,
is
yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
part of the DC collection, but is not really
Part of the
superhero related.
DC, not
Yeah,
part of the Justice League
the
universe.
Justice League
I
universe.
wouldn't
Yeah,
be
so
surprised if they tackled Shazam as a solo entity. I really feel that, especially in the more modern incarnations of Shazam, the animated series that we've seen, that he fits in well with the rest of the Justice League universe. I could see that being, even if it starts out as a tangent, of it being eventually brought into the
into
rest of the
I
Justice
think
League
I think
universe.
maybe one of the things he's talking about is the whole deal with magic and magic in this world. I mean, you can always introduce it, I guess. It's because I think Wonder Woman is the big point of that introduction. Forget Shazam. Wonder Woman is, do you introduce Greek gods
Right.
into
Although
this?
I don't really feel that these filmmakers and these film writers are going to have any problem straying from canon to introduce these characters by being interdimensional beings or
Or something like that.
beings from the future or this is an alien technology which looks like magic to us. I don't think
See,
that's gonna be a
I
problem.
think that might be the approach they take, the Marvel approach, where Thor is really more alien technology and aliens who live longer and have a different composition than us compared to.
Which is what the modern comic books have done too. Like the Asgardians aren't magical beings so much as they are beings with technology that far exceeds our own.
Ours. Yeah, exactly. DC hasn't taken that approach. They're still gods because DC Universe is all about gods and men, pretty much.
Yeah, but I mean, like we've gotten around. I mean, because Superman is like a god archetype character, and we've gotten around that issue by sort of exploring more of this notion of him being from another planet. I think it's
True.
not too much of a stretch to talk about pocket dimensions, alternate realities, alternate dimensions. Where I mean, I think for a character like Shazam, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Where there's like a little, interdimensional shift that happens whenever Billy shouts Shazam, and that's what brings him these superpowers. So I think there's plenty of potential in there to
To do that.
introduce these elements and introduce these characters without sort of
Now the
leaving the plot
question
on
is,
reality.
what version of Shazam will be brought? Because the latest version in the DC universe is seven of them make Shazam, the seven kids. So basically,
Right.
Billy and his adopted family, and they all pretty much make Shazam together. And then there's the other version, which is just literally Billy. And I don't know if you ever saw the Shazam Superman team up animated movie.
Hmm. Oh
I
yeah,
I
was
like
that the Black Adam, that
with
one?
Black Adam, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was short. It was about what, 45 minutes or so,
Oh
something
yeah,
like
but it was
that.
great. I loved it.
It was great, yeah. I love the fact that even though we didn't see much of Clark, he actually brought Clark Kent to the city to interview the kid, and he was like, street kid who is helping people out and doesn't have much, and he buys him breakfast, and he's just chowing down, and next minute Black Adam just shows up, is like, I've come for you, and tosses Clark away, and then he comes back as Superman, and then just beats the shit out of Superman because he can't stand magic, and Shazam basically saves him at the end of the day.
And I think it's
Of
it's
that.
totally reasonable to see some kind of combination like that incarnation of Shazam, or then also what we saw in Justice League War.
Yeah,
I think that's especially with the Justice League that we're creating now, and eventually we're gonna start building into Darkseid. That variation of Shazam makes perfect sense
sense.
for this universe. I don't know that going with the Seven Kid Shazam
Yeah,
is
that's too
good
much.
for from a filmmaking standpoint because you gotta work on a lot of
Just
just to
Billy,
explain Billy, let alone like having to add other characters into the mix as well.
maybe you could give him the siblings or the adopted siblings that he wants to protect, but not them having the powers per
Oh, I
se.
think I think that makes
Yeah,
perfect sense, and
yeah,
they got to touch on a little of that with Justice League War.
yeah.
And I think that is a really, I mean, that's so identifiable. I mean, that's like almost a Spider-Man style character trait, like even though he's got these amazing powers, he's still a kid and he still has to cope with kid problems, even
Problems.
though he's a nearly Superman powerful being.
Yeah, that's very true. True. We have one question here from Rod Johnson.
Yo, Rod,
Go
what's
there.
up, man?
What's up, man? Previous incarnations of Wonder Woman have been bad as a character, but I think Linda Carter was the best representation of the look of Wonder Woman by far. Tall, beautiful, athletic, but still very feminine. Not sure Gal Gadot can pull that off. Well, in terms of working out and looking the part, I think Jim Jones Jim can do anything for any celebrity. I'm serious. I
I,
mean,
I want to I
because
want to see her in the costume, but you know what? I'm not going to talk trash because I was one of those who was really skeptical about what's her face is Catwoman in Dark Knight Rises. What's
uh,
I can't remember her name now. But anyway, I was really skeptical of
Anne
Catwoman
Hathaway.
in
Anne
Anne
Hathaway.
Hathaway. And
Yeah.
because I'm a big Anne Hathaway, I was a big Anne Hathaway fan, but I was really skeptical of her being in a Batman film, and then I thought she was terrific as Catwoman. So especially as I was really cranky pants when Gal Gadot was first announced as being a part of the cast, I'm gonna shut my face until we see any other material as her as Diana or as her in a Wonder Woman outfit, because then it'll be more the debate as to whether or not the costume designers are actually giving us some really cool looking
Cool.
gear as
Exactly.
opposed to what became of that really awful Wonder Woman TV show where it was
Ah,
basically like Wonder
let's
Girl or something, and they
let's
gave her like
move
spandex pants and it looked awful. It just looked so bad.
let's move on from that aspect
But
of
I
it. I
mean, like
saw
in
that.
terms of Wonder Woman costume design, I am hoping for something a little bit more minimal, like the old Linda Carter outfit. Not because it's more attractive, but also because I think Wonder Woman should be a 300 style brawler. She doesn't
She
want bulky armor. She doesn't want a whole bunch of stuff restricting her movement. She wants to be as free as possible to kick as much ass as she can.
The word is Wonder Woman. I can't remember. I think it was also from Latino Review. In terms of her costume, said her costume would look like the present costume in the comic books, with the skirt that's almost like a Romanesque type
Hmm. I think she
armor.
should look a little like, I mean, not in terms of color, but I think a little like Xena Warrior Princess.
Yeah, well, they said they actually, I think they did frame that. I'm not exactly sure, but they did say it was similar to that. They said she will have her shield, ish, her shield, because she does have a shield in the comic books. But she will use the shield as part of her weaponry. She has a shield and a sword and a lasso. It all depends on how she wants to fight. They're
Hmm.
not sure exactly how. They just said that that's the full arsenal she has, which is what she actually carries. Depends
Right.
on how she decides to fight. So, but they said the shield would be, when she's fighting hand to hand, she's actually going to mount it backwards, kind of like
Yeah,
Captain
kind of
America.
Captain America. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just go to town and kicking ass. Now, in terms of her look and fit, I think I've seen some images of Gal Gadot as Diana. She looked fine. I mean, they were far away and kind of cropped in. But
Right.
Yeah, it was
shot
one of
off
those.
of a potato camera or something like that.
Exactly, exactly, something like that. And the megapixels were
No, no. If you don't have
no.
at least five megapixels, then
Yeah, they were a bit rough, but she looked, she looked fine from a faraway shot. Like I said, I believe anyone who goes to Jim Jones' gym after he work he did in 300
yeah.
and through Man of Steel, like I did. The reason why I say that is that even looking at the present Henry Cavill picture, I didn't think he was going to be bigger, but he is
Yeah.
bigger than he was in Man of Steel. So, I mean, they do good enough work or very good work in general, where I think they can get her to what they need her to look like in the
And
movie.
really the only test is going to be that they give her smart choreography for fight scenes after that. Because I think
Exactly.
we try and push too much flippy, dancy stuff into women fight scenes. And after you've seen a movie like Haywire with Gina Carano, like you can give a woman a ground and pound fight scene of substance and not have to rely on really awkward wire stunts or gravity defying BS.
Yes,
You
but
you can
but the
get
but, but you know the
time
only way
to
to do that is, I mean, the reason why you do that is because, take for instance, Black Widow, she's not strong, so that's the only way I can think in my head she can beat anyone. Wonder Woman does not need any of that crap,
But you've
right?
got an actress who's a little on the leaner side, and that's also why there's that little bit of concern when Wonder Woman has historically been kind of a brawler character herself.
Yeah, true, true. But like I said,
I
we'll
mean, you just need to make sure that the person who's giving her fight choreography is giving her work that looks like it's of substance, and especially
substance,
after
yeah.
what we saw from, I've already spaced on the actress's name in Man of Steel, who played the
Fiora,
Kryptonian. Sure, yeah. What we saw there looked perfect. She looked like she was actually going toe to toe against Superman
Superman,
without
yeah.
any of this weird like floatiness or punches landing in ways that seemed to not
Seems, yeah.
react well with
Well,
gravity. That's what we need to see
need.
more of, especially from an actress who's very, very thin. I mean, she's got a sort of a petite frame.
Well, true. I think one of the things they did well in Man of Steel I have a friend of mine. We keep talking about this, and he was always saying that he doesn't see a Wonder Woman movie coming. I was like, well, just because I mean, he's one of those where he goes, seeing a woman fight in film and beating up 100 guys doesn't make any sense because I have never seen it in real life, other than the martial artist. And even a guy beating up 100 guys, I still don't believe it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So for him, it just was a stretch. And then when he watched Man of Steel, he said, watching Fiora fight. I mean, first of all, we know she's Kryptonian, so I already said, okay, she's powerful. But
Right.
watching her beat Superman, like you said there, she's like, I understood how, because they also said she was a train. I mean, you knew she was
She was a
in the
soldier.
military.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So you know that the farm boy, all he knows how to do is throw wide punches and fly straight at you.
Right.
so so at this point, you're going, if they tell us that she is a warrior and they show her as a warrior, then anything she does, we're gonna go, yes.
Hmm.
Now if they don't do that, but I think they will, because at least for Zack Snyder, he does, especially with his fight choreography, he does a very good job in portraying to us that my characters can kick ass, and that's
Right.
what they're supposed to do. So I'm pretty okay with that side. I'm just waiting to see, since he said it himself that he sent her to the gym. We'll see how she looks
Right.
after he's going to send her to go bulk up. So that's going to be interesting, overall on that aspect. But we have talked for an hour, and so far T-Mobile hasn't failed me.
Look at that, T-Mobile. Comcast,
Yeah,
got to step your game up if you can't handle some.
yeah. I
Just
know, I
saying.
know, I know. But we talked about the DC Cinematic Universe, talked about the new look of Superman, and I guarantee you in the next 2 weeks there'll be some more stuff coming out. Actually,
We'll
when's
probably
Comic
get
Con?
we'll probably get actual confirmation as to whether or not Aquaman is going to be involved in any of these movies anytime soon.
I don't think. You see, I think that we will not never know until the movie. I think
You don't think
that
so?
might be. Yeah, I think at Comic Con we are going to get a short teaser of something short that they've already filmed.
Yeah, I could see that.
Um, we are going to get the announcements of whatever DC projects are, if it's these that we already talked about. I think we may get some more casting confirmations, maybe all those little villains we mentioned here, but I think Aquaman will not be mentioned at all. until
Until
either the
if he is a teaser for one of
yeah
these films.
yeah if he's a teaser for the end of the movie, they're not going to show him at all. Because for any of the teasers for any of the other movies, we never knew until somebody actually watched it and saw the teaser and said, "Hey guys, you need to stay to the end of the movie because this is coming out." So I don't
Right.
think they're gonna mention him. If they mention him, then that means he's in the movie. Then I'm perplexed
Right.
at that
Oh,
point.
absolutely.
Yeah. So it was a lot of stuff there, talking about DC Comics and DC Universe in general. But thank you very much, Juan, for joining us.
Absolutely. It's always a blast joining you to chat me mostly whine and bitch about comic book films.
No, I mean, hey, no, it's always good. It's always good. I wanted to see if you would. This is a side note. This has nothing to do with DC Comics. We've kind of rounded that up, but I want to see if you watched Transformers this past weekend or
Just couldn't bring myself to go to the theater, and
um,
I normally don't get. For if it's a movie I really want to see, I try and go media blackout. Like I just don't want to know anything about it. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, I saw that first trailer, and now anytime I see anything Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm kind of closing my eyes and sticking my fingers in my ears because I don't want anything else from the movie to be.
okay, then I suggest you don't watch. I'm going to go see the 17-minute clip of the movie tonight, and I'm going to
Right.
do a
I'm
video
not
of
going to do
that.
it. I'm
So
not. I mean, like, I won't
don't
be able to
watch
join in on
anything.
conversation.
No,
But
just to skip my video. It's cool.
but I saw like the main trailer for Transformers, and it looked like everything else that I don't like about what Michael Bay has done with the Transformers. And after the movie came out, I was watching a bunch of different reviews, and especially guys like Jeff Kanata, formerly of the Totally Rad Show. Like he just looked so defeated trying to talk about the movie, and it's not what's going to interest me about that kind of media. It's going to be what it's 3 hours long
Yeah.
of blowing stuff up for no good reason and doing stuff with the Transformers that makes no sense. And I don't like the character designs for the Dinobots, and I'm just not impressed by that anymore. And it's one of the big problems I have. We've talked about this before, you and I, of trying to out epic your previous film, and you can after a point you can't do it. You can't make something more epically epicness because it's just you've run out of epic juice. Like it just doesn't work anymore. You have to be able to get us interested in characters. You have to be able to get us interested in context, in story, in backstory, and exposition. If we don't care and you just try and impress us with explosions, then you're kind of wasting everybody's time. And I kind of feel like the box office from the July 4th weekend reflects a little of that burnout that some movie fans are having with these epically awesome epic properties because
Well,
they're not that impressive
you
anymore.
know the thing about Transformers that really stood out for me. I mean, I went to see the movie because my buddy was like, "Let's go see." I was like, "Yeah, whatever." I wasn't gonna do a review until it made $100 million. I was like, then my review
Right.
was why?
But I mean, like we're talking July 4th box
And
office money.
obviously,
It
yeah,
was it
yeah,
was a 40% drop off
yeah,
from
drop,
July
yeah.
4th last year. So I mean,
Uh,
Transformers made cash, but we're living in an age where companies have completely unrealistic expectations on what movies should be doing, and there's no way Transformers met those expectations.
but the movie, China is gonna make that movie do so well, which is an interesting thing I forgot to mention because, um, and it's something I've seen more in movies. Iron Man did it with a
Hmm.
little of the Chinese doctor taking away the thing in his heart, and
Totally.
Transformers did it huge with they did Chinese product placements in the movie. They
Oh wow.
had which is why the movie is tracking on to beat Avatar in China, which is huge. It's already at 153 million dollars in China, and which has put the movie at 490 million already in 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
this movie's going to make loads of cash for them, and they'll be fine. But the reason why I say that is because they cast a Chinese actress in this movie,
Hmm.
and the rumor is that in Superman, Batman, Superman, Dawn of Justice, that the rumor is that she's going to be playing Mercy Graves, Lex's
Hmm.
assistant, in this. And I want to ask you the question is, what do you think of Hollywood's way of? I actually, even though let me ask the question first before I actually even try and answer it before you. Sorry. I don't even know why I was thinking that. What do you think about Hollywood's method of trying to incorporate a lot of the Chinese and foreign markets into their movies, whether it be organically or unorganically in a sense? What do you think about
You know,
some of that approach?
I think it's smart to play to whatever audience is watching your movies. I think that's a genius move. You wanna embrace the community. You don't want to say this movie's for America and maybe other people in the world will like it too.
Yeah.
No media is regional anymore. It's all global. What
Hmm.
gives me a little pause is when you make different movies for different regions, which is kind of what happened a little bit with Iron Man,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
the
There was an
Chinese
extended
characters.
Chinese scene,
Yeah,
right?
there was extra footage, and you know what? I kind of want to see that movie. I kind
Yeah.
of want to see what they got because like I liked Iron Man 3. I didn't think it was the best movie ever, but I had a lot of fun with it. And I know like Iron Man 3. I thought it was pretty good. But it was but it's kind of curious. Like now I feel like is there media I'm missing out on? And
Yeah.
so I would hope that there are ways to craft these films that are accessible to a global audience without having to cut different versions of the film for different regions all the time. And I know there have always been little tweaks like that throughout, but I think Iron Man really stood as the first example of there are scenes you just won't get in the
In
United
America.
States,
Yeah.
like a whole mini subplot line that you just won't get.
Oh,
Um,
and all we saw was the doctor just taking out
right,
the
exactly. And
yeah.
and that could have been interesting. I mean, that could have been a part of the story that could have made sense to us, but we won't know until like obviously it'll probably be on a Blu-ray or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. No,
But
no,
yeah,
I,
so
I
that's where I get a little cranky. Sorry.
no, no, I was gonna say I agree with you because as bad as Transformers was, that was probably the seamless transmission they did because something happened and they had to move offsite and like move each other Chinese facilities. And you're like, yeah, every company has a Chinese facility, so yeah, whatever. That's
Hmm.
very normal. And the movie transitioned to China, and I was like, okay, yeah, I like the organic part of it. And I also like the fact that they placed it in China. They made it as Chinese as possible that they could, while still having a few of these other American characters in there and saying, hey, look, things are happening in a different country, and I think that's the reason why the Chinese audience is also warming up too. It's like, okay, fine, you're blowing up shit in our country. We've been asking you for you to blow up shit here in a long time.
Right.
No more New York City,
Right, right,
So I think I'm interested to see how it looks like with Dawn of Justice they're doing the same thing with Mercy Graves, not so much as going to China, but using the Chinese actress and incorporate some of that. So I'm sure LexCorp has facilities everywhere, so we might see some of that stuff incorporated in there altogether. Will be interesting, but again, thank you very much, man. I appreciate chatting with us for over an hour. We said an
Definitely.
hour, but over an hour. Anyway, if you guys want to check out Mr. Juan Bagnell and some of his really cool videos, some of them about potatoes, some about front-facing cameras, some about just sound. I mean, he covers a very interesting spectrum of gadgetry and gadget functionality that most people don't. I certainly do not. I'll tell you. I'll tell you that, yeah. When I especially when I look at sound, I go to my man here because he is the sound guru, and he also covers just certain things that what I instead of I just look at his videos now just so I can get my information myself. So definitely check it out and check out his channel, Some Gadget Guy, and his website is also somegadgetguy.com. His Twitter handle is somegadget, and yeah, follow him, subscribe, and we have a giveaway with the weekly hangout, so you do have to subscribe to his channel anyway.
Oh,
You
that's
have no
right.
choice.
We have that giveaway going. We're gonna have
Yeah.
to run that soon.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, to subscribe, check out his videos, and see what Some Gotch Guy is all about. And of course, myself, Thunder E at Border Work. I have no lower third because I switched computers and I forgot to actually throw that up. Um, you can check me out at Board at Work on YouTube. It's Thunder E also. Sorry, it's Board at Work. I said Thunder E. It's Board at Work on YouTube, Board at Work on Twitter, and of course, it's Thunder E. So this is me again saying thank you very much, and always enjoy your entertainment.
Bam.